arm in arm as they go off the racetrack, and the bodies come down on our funny cars as we get set to go into the semifinal round of competition.
It'll be John Brute Force in the Tower Lane, a native Californian, a former truck driver who about 10 years ago decided he wanted to make his living in this sport, and it has been not easy for John. He has really struggled, gone through an awful lot of equipment. A good businessman, as you can see by all of the logos and sponsors on his race car, and he's finally got the performance to back it all up.
He'll need it because he has to race the #1 qualifier, the 4-time Winston World Champion in the Pepsi Challenger, Don the Snake Prudhomme.
Prudhomme is only...
And Don's got something coming out of the car. You can see there is fluid, liquid of all types coming out. He quickly shuts it off, and the car is on fire. It is the nitromethane fuel, apparently a fuel line split. Prudhomme comes out of the car, crawls away on his hands and knees, and Bob Brandt, his crew chief, quickly hitting it with a fire extinguisher. They back the car up, and no damage to either the car or Don Prudhomme, but what a break for John Force.
Oh, John Force in the far lane will waltz his way into the final round. And Force smokes the tires. It's a good thing he had no opponent, David. He'd have been in real trouble. He'd have probably been defeated.
He'd have been watching Don Prudhomme streaking away in that Pepsi Challenger, but instead Don Prudhomme being pushed back to the pits, the fuel line letting go, and a dejected driver is the man who watched the body come up, and he exited quickly as the fuel started pouring out, hitting the red-hot headers and bursting into flames as Prudhomme himself shuts the engine off and immediately exits the car.
And the first to react here is his crew chief, Bob Brandt, who knows that there is always a fire extinguisher sitting right on that starting line. The emergency trucks, the way they are placed, it would have taken them another 20 or 30 seconds to get here, and by that time there might have been an inferno had Bob Brandt not reacted so quickly.
The remaining pair in the semifinal round, Denny Savage at the wheel of the Custom Body Enterprises car of Fred Castronova. As we've told you, Savage in this car for the first time driving this race.
And little John Lombardo has an opportunity here to make his first ever final round. He qualified #1 at the Southern Nationals earlier this year, but has never made it as far as the finals. Little John Lombardo is away first. Savage pulls up even. It is gonna be Little John Lombardo by a little over a car length. Pat Galvin celebrating, the crew chief along with Donnie Couch as they head for the truck. Little John from North Hollywood makes his first final.
A fine time for Little John Lombardo at 5.90. He figured out what has become a relatively tricky racetrack. Earlier today, Steve had a chance to visit Shirley Muldowney in her pit area.
As these top fuel dragsters have become more sophisticated, their crews have become more specialized. In the case of Shirley Muldowney's team, it is Ron Tobler who makes the major decisions as far as tuning the car is concerned, but he still has to get deep into the toolbox. He is ably assisted by Shirley's son, John Muldowney, who generally is responsible for the clutch in the automobile, a very important component. Other crew members will do the diving, as they call it, going underneath, taking off the oil pan, checking the bearing and the crankshafts. Ron has also got to be a little bit weatherman and keep an eye on the air density and the temperature and the actual altitude as indicated by his gauges, because all that affects his tuning of the race car.
Shirley Muldowney now in the semifinal round of Top Fuel to be racing Richard Tharp.
Shirley's performance today particularly impressive when you consider what happened to her at this year's U.S. Nationals on a qualifying run. The wheel came off the car, the left front wheel, and she made serious contact with the guardrail, bouncing to a stop. Shirley was unhurt, but the race car took a vicious blow. So the car she is driving today is the same machine that carried her to the 1982 World Championship. It came out of mothballs. They put a new wing on it with the #1, and here they are in the semifinals against Richard Tharp.
Steve, this is quite a personality battle, too. Not only is it who's got the better car, but who is the better driver.
Richard Tharp's car a little lazy off the starting line. Shirley Muldowney comes out of the tire smoke quickly. Shirley Muldowney goes into the finals at a 5.88 at 240 miles an hour.
Steve, that was one tremendous driving job by Shirley Muldowney as she has now earned her way to the finals of this Winston World Championship. Let's watch. Richard Tharp just a little slow off the starting line. Then here comes the smoke, and that indicates the tires are loose. They have broken traction. She's spinning them, but she recovers quickly and easily pulls ahead to defeat Tharp.
And this is the first time that Shirley Muldowney has driven what they call a Crower glide type of clutch. She's had a pedal clutch, or she calls it a stick shift, all season long. So what a tribute to this young lady to adapt that quickly to a new mechanical combination. Who is Shirley going to race in the final? Will it be the man in the near lane, Joe Amato, who has won 3 races this year? Or will it be Gene Snow, who is yet to win his first Top Fuel title after the funny car glory he enjoyed a decade ago?
Gene Snow dropped out of drag racing for several years and formed a company, and you see it proudly displayed on the side of that black gold entry, and it's called Snow Oil Company. That may well be why he doesn't go out and look for other sponsors. For Joe Amato, he is sponsored by Hearst and his own Performance Warehouse Distribution Company, Keystone Automotive. Joe Amato and Gene Snow as we get set for the final round of semifinal action. One of the two will advance to meet Shirley.
What a contrast in personalities. The soft-spoken, slow-walking Texan Gene Snow. And Joe Amato, very animated, talks with his hands. There's no punctuation in his sentences. The one thing they have in common, they're very well-liked and respected in this sport. Two of the real good guys.
And they are both very exceptional race car drivers.
Now, Amato has had the consistency mechanically all year long. Has not been first off the mark very often, but has never red-lighted either. Gene Snow, reaction's good. Motor has been a problem.
The green light comes on for both cars, and Joe Amato pulls to an early lead. And he continues to extend it through the finish line, and Joe Amato wins to earn his right in the finals, 5.70 seconds to a losing 5.85 for Gene Snow. So it'll be Joe Amato, as we see here in the near lane, defeating Gene Snow in this semifinal round.
And Dave Watcher, he will smoke the tires almost exactly where Shirley Muldowney did. But Joe Amato backpedaled as Shirley did, got the traction again, and defeats Gene Snow.
And Joe Amato gets the lane choice with a 5.70 elapsed time here, defeating Gene Snow. Shirley's best in the semis, a 5.88.
And back in the pit area, Shirley Muldowney's crew is thrashing, and they tell me they have decided to change transmissions in this car, to go to a lower gear ratio transmission. In fact, they're borrowing one from Dwight Salisbury to try to prevent that smoking the tires in the final round. Little bit of a gamble here, David.
You can see, Steve, all of the work that goes on. Literally, they disassemble the engine, practically the entire drivetrain if need be, and put it all back together in roughly an hour and a half.
So Ron Tobler and John Muldowney have got their hands full, I'm sure. A similar thrash going on over in Joe Amato's pit area as they prepare for the finals. But right now, it's pro stock time.
It is the battle of the factories. Warren Johnson at the wheel of the Hearst Oldsmobile. Finished number 3 in the world last season.
Warren Johnson raced for many years out of Fridley, Minnesota, but now he's picking up a southern accent out of Duluth, Georgia.
And somebody with a southern accent is the Winston World Champion, and that is Lee Shepard driving the Rare and Morrison Camaro out of Arlington, Texas. So we've got the battle, the Chevrolet of Lee Shepard, wearing number 1, indicating he is the reigning world champion, and he has won it for the 2nd year in a row against Warren Johnson, number 3 last season.
I wonder sometimes if a driver like Shepard, who doesn't have to work on the car and worry about the motor, doesn't have an edge. Warren Johnson looking for 2 consecutive event titles here at the World Finals. What a final this is shaping up to be. Half track, dead even. 3/4 track, dead even. Warren Johnson.
What a driving job by Warren Johnson. His crew and his wife happy over the big victory over Lee Shepard. A 0.03 of a second hole shot at the starting line, and that paid off for Warren Johnson as Lee Shepard actually ran quicker. The 2 lanes are timed separately. They're like 2 separate racetracks. And Warren Johnson leaving first and getting to the finish line first by just a bumper length over Lee Shepard.
And here you see why they use a computer electronic finish line judge. Huh. How would you like to try to call that with a naked eye at 180 miles an hour? Warren Johnson wins the event title for the 2nd year in a row.
Certainly holding his emotions in check at the shutdown area as we get set for the funny cars. And here is John Force.
Neither of our funny car finalists have ever been in the NHRA Championship winner's circle. Not little John Lombardo here with the body being latched down, nor John Brute Force.
Little John Lombardo has been racing in Southern California for nearly 2 decades. He is primarily a Southern California racer. He selects events out of the state to go to, but John Lombardo has his first shot ever at winning an NHRA national event.
Now, John Force has been in 3 finals over his 10-year career, but is yet to get the win light in that final sprint.
The burnouts are over. All the work is completed. The crews directing their drivers up to that starting line marked by the yellow stripe across this very sticky asphalt. Little John Lombardo in the far lane, John Force in the near lane, and staging very carefully into those light beams. Both drivers set, and an advantage for Force, and he goes up in smoke. Now Little John goes up in smoke. It's a race to the finish line, and it is Little John Lombardo pulling it out. A tremendous race. Only a 6:32 for each driver, but times don't count. It's who gets to the finish line first.
And it still takes a driver in one of these cars, no matter how sophisticated they get. They leave right together. Force in the near lane will be the first to lose traction. There, too much power for this racetrack. Right now, Force feels, I've lost.
But Little John Lombardo goes up in smoke. He recovers and pulls out by 1 car length the victory over John Force.
Little John Lombardo, a mainstay here at Orange County International Raceway, only makes 2 or 3 of the national events out of state. Lombardo, even he has got to be excited.
Little John Lombardo, the winner of the funny car title here at Orange County, the first ever national event win. This lady has seen a lot of them. She has got 3 Winston World Championships to her credit. This will be the last race. She bears the big number 1 on the wing, the reigning Winston World Champion, Shirley Muldowney.
For Shirley Muldowney, it would be a very appropriate win here as the movie of her life story, Heart Like a Wheel, being released all over the country to rave reviews or even talking Academy Awards. But this guy would like to spoil that moment for her if he possibly can and tie about 4 drivers ever who have won 4 national events in a season, Shirley and Gary Beck among them.
Steve, they seem to be having some problems with Joe Amato's car. Shirley is running. She has done her burnout, and Joe Amato sitting patiently while the crew comes over.
It's going to be a single, I believe, for Shirley Muldowney, Dave.
It looks like it may be, as Joe Amato having problems in the final, and Shirley Muldowney.
Hold it, they're going to start Amato's car.
They're trying very hard. They squirted the gasoline and the engine is running, and Joe waves the Diamond P Sports cameraman out of the way.
And look at this, Shirley Muldowney is waiting for him. Son John looking over saying, easy, Mom, trying to communicate with her what's going on. Joe Amato will not get a full burnout, though. Amato at least is able to spin the tires towards the starting line.
You remember it was in the first round that Bill Carter had the same problem. He got started very late. He fared very well with the traction, but the track has changed considerably since then.
You know who else has been a good sport here? Joe Amato. He could get a quick little squirt, as they call it, up to the starting line to simulate a burnout, but he's worried right now that he's already inconvenienced Shirley Muldowney. That's the way Amato thinks. A true sportsman.
We do have a race for the final. Joe Amato in the near lane. In the far lane, the 3-time world champion, Shirley Muldowney. She's going for the event win. Joe Amato wants to stop her, and Amato out first, but he smokes the tires, and Shirley Muldowney has won the 19th annual Winston World Championship.
In a year-old race car with a clutch she's never used before. They changed the transmissions, had everything going against her coming into this race, but she pulls it off. Shirley Muldowney, the pink car in the 4 lane. Amato, without the burnout, there just was not enough traction. As the day has cooled off, the temperatures dropped some 10 degrees, and the crowd loves Shirley in winner's circle again.
That's it from the World Finals. This is Dave McClellan for Steve Evans saying so long for now. This has been a Diamond P Sports presentation.